Hi guys, welcome to the first December special episode of 90% Knitting. This is going to be my WIPstravaganza roundup video to show you where I'm at the end of 2019 with all those WIPs that I had on the needles coming into the year and how I fared getting things done. And I will say I'm pretty happy. First up though, let me explain. I'm in my dining room. Number one, I'm here because I need space to set a whole lot of things. If you remember last year when I did my WIPs roundup video, I was in the bedroom and my whole bed was covered with WIPs. That's a great place to do it too, but number one, I'm happy to say I don't need that much space this year. Number two, it's a very, very rainy day and dark and dreary, and that bedroom is horrible on a good day with light. Today is just terrible. So I could also be out in the porch room, except raining really, really hard, although not at this second, but it was like 30 seconds ago. And it gets really loud out there. It's crazy. So this seemed like the best place. Also, lighting wise, the lighting isn't too horrible here, although I have all of the ceiling lights on, which is a little weird, but whatever. It's what we've got to work with, and I want to get this video done. So that's the location. I apologize if it's a little echoey because this is a vaulted ceiling room, so pretty much everything echoes in here, but I will try to at least speak loud enough that you can hear me because my camera is on the table kind of back a ways, but I need to be able to move around. So let's get into the WIP roundup for the year. If you watched the podcast last year in December, as I said, I had all of my WIPs out on my bed and I was trying to decide what to do because I had an insane number of them. In the end, I ended up coming into 2019 with 27 WIPs. And that was after I had decided to frog certain things and just get them out of there because I was never going to finish them. And that was a good thing. And that's kind of what I've done recently too. I've looked at what's left and thought, am I going to work on this? Am I ever going to do this? Right now I only have one project left that is still on the fence about that, but we'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, I started the WIPstravaganza thread in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group and invited you all to join with me and try to work through your WIPs this year. And as is understandable, that thread got less and less active as the year went on because people had finished WIPs and that wasn't their priority and everything. I will do one last drawing from that thread though at the end of the year. So if you are still working on WIPs and want to post anything in there, feel free because that will enter you for that last drawing. In the meantime, I have had a very good WIP year. Now, I would love to say that I have a huge pile of WIPs sitting here that I can show you each and everything I finished, but I don't. Number one, because that would have taken me forever to try to do that. And I created enough of a giant mess just pulling all these things out that I do have here. I think I probably put that little clip in at the beginning of the video of what I have sitting here. What you can't, well, yeah, there's things other places too, but we'll just stick with what's on the table. Yeah, I couldn't do it. It would have taken too long. It made a huge mess. And number two, is that number two or number three? I don't know. A lot of them I don't have because some of them were gifts. Some things that were made out of my yarn I've sent to some of my wholesale customers so that they could use them as displays. I'll get them back eventually, but right now I don't have some of them. So what I will do when possible is I will insert a picture of the WIP that I've mentioned because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you all of the WIPs that I finished. And you know how I'm going to do that? I'm going to go down my spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet. Remember the spreadsheet? Yeah. It started out as mostly just one page because this was most of the stuff down to here. Is that right? Yeah, because here's the line that it says, total WIPs at beginning of 2019, 27. So everything from here on up was what I brought into this year. And everything from here on down was stuff that I cast on this year and either finished, frogged, or have not finished yet. And we'll get to that too. So we're going to start at the top, and I'm just going to tell you the things that I finished. Okay, I started the year with, I think, let me see, 1, 11, 12, 13, 14, with 14 sock projects. I did frog 2 of them. The holidays, no, the Merry and Bright socks got frogged. That yarn ended up being reused towards the end of this year for those slouchy mitts that I'm designing. And then the S'mores Swirl sample socks, those got frogged because they were barely started. And did I knit something else? I think maybe I knit another, I don't remember now. I feel like I knit something else with those. I don't know. Anyway, those 2 got frogged. So that brought me down to 12. 12, right? Gosh. Anyway, the ones that I have finished. I had some from 2016. So the Hallow Pie socks, those were my oldest WIP socks, and those did get finished. All right, the other ones that I finished, and these are in chronological order as far as how old they were, not chronological order of how I finished them, because you probably don't really care about that kind of detail. That's just the kind of detail that my brain likes. The next oldest pairs were from 2017. I finished my Hoodwinked Staggered Rib Socks, my Margarita Swirl Socks, and my Hippie Christmas Socks. And I've been wearing my Hippie Christmas Socks, so I couldn't show those to you anyway because I think they're in the laundry. So those all got finished. So those were all ones from 2017. So then ones that were 2018 cast-ons that I brought into 2019 are as follows. My Flexi Flips Experiment Socks, which I think in the end I ended up just putting on a magic long circular and doing magic loop to finish the second one because I wasn't super impressed with the Flexi Flips. My Dark and Stormy Socks. My Rhinebeck Sweater Weather Socks. And then there was the 2 pairs of the Matchy Matchy Motorcycle Trip socks. Remember those? Yeah. I finished both mine and my husband's, so we both have those socks now. My Retro 50s Jingle Jangle socks, which I've also been wearing. My Holidays sample socks, which I just finished. That was the last pair I finished. And my Trapezoid Shorty socks, which I finished those back in January. So anyway, those are all my sock WIPs from this year. That's a lot. And like I said, some of those, at least one pair of those were from my husband. I think maybe one of those pairs I gave to my mom, possibly. I don't remember now. Anyway, I'm very happy with my sock WIPs. Yay! My completed sock WIPs. Now I had shawls. I had 3 on the needles at the beginning of the year, all of which had been cast on in 2018. I finished 2 of them. One was the Mini Maximization shawl. And the other was my Hedge Witch shawl, which I love. I wear my Hedge Witch so much, especially at this time of year. And it also went, actually both of those went with me and were samples at shows this year as well. So the only one that is not finished, and I barely worked on it last year at all, was my hand spun Hansel, which is right here. So my Hansel hap. So it's a hap, those big square shawls that start off with a big garter stitch square, and that's what I've got here. I've got half of the garter stitch square, and it is exactly half. I remember the last time I worked on this was, oops, I just lost stitches, was back last winter, I think January probably. I was sick one day, and I just parked myself on the couch. I think I had Lord of the Rings on and just knit for a while. but that's as far as I got. I got to the halfway point on the triangle and then never got to work on it again, or never bothered to work on it again. But this is some of my hand spun. And the whole thing is going to be made out of hand spun. So that is still on the needles. All right. Moving on to sweaters. I had 5 on the needles. Again, all started in 2018. I finished 2 of them. Okay, sweaters / upper body garments. Arboreal was the sweater that I did finish. I finished that in January. I love my arboreal. I've been wearing that some this winter already. The other was that Holy Sock repurposing project. Remember where I cut up all the cuffs of socks that I had just collected that had holes in them, hand knit socks, and I ended up sewing it into a poncho. It's technically finished, but it has things that need to be done to it, so I have not worn it. I have some holes where I missed with the sewing machine, and I want to do some embellishing on it and everything, and I need to do something to make the neckline a little less wonky. But otherwise, it's together, and I'm calling that a finished project. So the other 3 sweaters that I had on the go was my raspberry campfire cardi that I was making out of Ellsworth silky wool, my not striped or faded sweater. It was going to be a pullover that I was making out of some frangipani in the Damson colorway, I believe, and then my tabbouleh sweater, also out of frangipani, and I don't remember the colorway name of it, but it was kind of a naturally kind of grayish stone color. I have decided all 3 of those are being frogged. I'm never going to finish them. And it's not because of the sweaters, it's because of the yarns that I'm using. I used to love Ellsworth silky wool. I don't know why I have an issue with it now. I just do not really enjoy working with it. I think I'm going to try weaving with some of it that I have in my stash, but otherwise I'm done with it. I don't want to make sweaters out of it anymore, I don't think. I'm not sure why. At least it could change in the future, but in the meantime, I'm going to tear out that campfire cardi, which I had decided to not do the campfire patterning anyway and just make it a plain cardigan. But even at that, I just wasn't enjoying it, and life is too short to knit things that you don't enjoy, especially sweaters, because they take a while. And the other 2, I just can't get into the frangipani yarn. Frangipani is a sport weight yarn. It was meant for Gansey knitting, which if you are familiar with Ganseys, they're very textured. They're knitted at a very, very tight gauge. And that's not what I was making with this. And I have no desire to make a Gansey. As much as I love textured knitting, I have no desire to make a Gansey. But I thought, okay, I really like the yarn. I like the colors of the yarn. And so I bought these cones of this yarn from the Woolly Thistle. It's nice yarn. I just do not enjoy knitting with it. I don't know why. I've tried multiple projects, and I just can't get into it. So as much as I love the sweater ideas, they're not going to happen in that yarn. So those are being frogged. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the frangipani yarns that I have. I may destash them at some point. I may hang on to them. I might try weaving with them. I had the thought that I might try crocheting a sweater with them. I might like it better for that. I don't know. It's just, I'm not sure why. It's just a yarn that I can't really enjoy for some reason. At least I haven't. So that's what happened with my sweaters from this year. Okay, so then I came into the year with 3 Afghan projects, or blanket projects. And the one I did finish, my Granny Stripes blanket, I finished back in April. I finally got it big enough, and we do use it on our bed, so yay. That leaves 2. One is my hand-spun log cabin squares blanket that I was making. I don't think I worked on that at all this year. I still have all the squares. I cannot put my finger on the bin that they're in. I'm not sure where it is. It's probably buried under or behind something right now, and I just can't see it. So I didn't bring it out to show you. But I do have quite a number of them, and eventually it'll get finished, but it's not getting finished anytime soon. But the other one is my mini granny squares blanket project, which is in this bag right here. And this is as big as it is. So it's not too bad. I'd say it's maybe 36 inches wide, maybe a little wider than that. I'm not 100% sure. But this is as far as it's gotten, and I'm pretty sure I'm never going to finish this in mini square format. I mean, I've said that before. I thought at the beginning of this year my plan would be to just finish this last row and then like fold it in half and make it into a pillow, like a pillow cover, which that would be a decent sized pillow, right? Yeah. But I have a different idea for this, and I think I did share it with you guys on the podcast at one point in time, but I will talk about that a little bit later. So this is going to be, I think I'm going to move this into my active WIPs area very soon, but I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to what I'm going to do this year with my WIPs. So those are the two remaining Afghans, blankets, whatever you want to call them. And that leaves us with one last odd project that I brought into this year. I had started it in, I think, December of 2018. It was going to be a gift, a Christmas gift for my daughter last year, and then I screwed it up. Well, I screwed it up in multiple ways, and then I never got it fixed. So these were the Sweet Fern gift mitts is what I was calling them. And as you can see, this column of this cable is offset. It's actually supposed to be in the center, and it's also supposed to be the other way around, like it's supposed to go this way. The chart, I think, in the book was flipped, and I didn't check errata. Yeah. So I think this was from the Knitter's Book of Wool, possibly, or Knitter's Book of Yarn. I don't remember which one. But anyway, here's the second one. And I believe I had knit it further because I think I'd started the gusset, and that's when I realized that it was actually centered, and I just did something totally wrong on this one. And I lost steam on it. I'd never fixed it. I think Sarah, PA Knitwit, had suggested just tearing this one back to the point of the gusset and adjusting it so that it would mirror this one and it'd be offset as well, rather than, finishing this one correctly, then having to reknit this whole knit. And that's actually a very good idea. And that if I do finish these, that's what I will do. However, at this point, I have no real strong feelings about finishing these. I could just rip them both out and repurpose the yarn, because this is some Cascade 220 Heathers, which is one of my favorite commercial yarns. I know there's issues with the Cascade company. I didn't say I'm planning to buy any new, but I've got a ton of it in my stash. And I love it. I love their heathered colors. I just think they're so beautiful. So, I don't know. Again, these were supposed to be a gift for my daughter for last Christmas, which I already had other knit things for her, so it wasn't a big deal. As it is, this year she doesn't want anything except a hat. She's not super into a lot of knit stuff right now, I don't think, and so I probably will never give those to her. And I don't know that I necessarily need them. I mean, they're really pretty. I love the yarn, and I love the cable, and if I did do them right, I think I'd like them even more, because I think it would just bug me knowing that this is wrong. So I may just rip those out completely, but I'm leaving them in here for right now, just to figure that out. So anyway, that's the WIPs from 2019, and I am very happy. That leaves me with 4 active WIPs left from my WIP list. So those mitts, which may or may not get finished, the 2 blanket projects, and that Hansel Hap. Those will be getting carried into 2020 as far as my plan for right now. So let's move on to the things that I cast on this year and finished. or didn't finish, or frogged. I'm going to just run through my list because honestly, there's a ton. And, you know, one of my goals this year was not just to finish WIPs that I brought into this year, but also to be a little mindful about what I was casting on this year so that I wasn't carrying a ton of WIPs that I started this year into next year. I wanted to like cast things on and actually finish them. So all the things in blue, like so from here on down, this whole section, this is all stuff that I cast on this year. If it's in blue, that means I finished it. Actually, the things in yellow are also things that are finished. I think they just mean I did not. No, actually, I've shown all but one of those on the podcast, so I just didn't change the color. And then this one red thing up here is something that I started, but then I frogged, or I didn't actually frog it. I just didn't finish it. It was another MIT project, actually. So, anyway, these are pretty much in chronological order as far as when I started them. Again, not necessarily when they got finished. And again, I'm going to just pop pictures in here as I can. Some things towards the end, though, I do actually have the finished objects I'll show you. So the first thing that I think I finished this year, if I look at least of my new cast-ons, was my Lose Your Blues cowl. I did that as an entry into the Slay Your Stash event that Jen from Boston Jen from the Downseller Studio was running this year. I was intending to do that every month, and I did it in January, February, and March. Then April was my month that I was the person donating the prize, or well, Fiber and Dye Works was, and so I did not do one for April, and then I never got back into the swing of it. So if she does it next year, I might do it though. All right, so my Lose Your Blues cow, I was making the antidote mitts out of some of my ridgetop fingering, and I didn't finish those because I didn't end up liking my color choices that I was using, so I just stopped knitting on that altogether. Okay, then we had a sweater, my Serendipitously Fading Pullover. I finished that, and that was something I used one of my Serendipity sweater sets out of the Cozy Base, and the sweater itself was the Ladies Classic Raglan Pullover by Jane Richmond. Yeah, and that sweater spent a lot of time in my booth this year as a sample at shows. Next project is one that I started but I did not finish because I got so bored knitting it. It's the Right Around the Corner shawl. You know, I want the finished object of this so badly. It's very wrinkled because it's been in this bag. Oh, that's the wrong side. Here's the right side. So it's a garter stitch, striped, big garter stitch stripe triangle. Then it has a solid color here and a solid color here, and then you put tassels on it. And darn it, I want the tassels. That's what I really, really want. So I will finish this. It's going to go into next year. Honestly, for the longest time, I couldn't find it. It went missing. The whole project bag went missing. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Okay, so then next up was the Dragon Wing Cowl, which I think was another one of my Slay Your Stash entries. Then my Inspiration Socks. That was one of my anniversary colorways this year. Another movie hat, which is just a hat I cast on that I could knit on at the movies. My Cable Crush cowl. That did get finished. I think that might have also been one of my Slay the Stash projects. I'll be honest with you, I may end up frogging that and reusing the yarn. I love all the cables and I think it's so pretty, but it is such a densely knit cowl that it stands up on its own. I don't know if I actually ever blocked it. Blocking it might help. It might soften it up, but it was It was knit on an Aran weight yarn, or maybe it was that bulky. I don't even remember. It was a Three Irish Girls yarn that I had. It may have been a bulky yarn. Yeah, it's not something I see myself wearing. I could gift it, I suppose, but I don't know. I enjoyed knitting it. I enjoyed the pattern a lot. But it got finished. I cast it on and I finished it. Okay, then there were some more socks. My Pie a la Mode socks. Pie a la Mode was my Pie Day colorway this past year. My Positivity socks, which was my other anniversary colorway this year. And then there was another sweater, my Beekeeper cardigan, which that also spent a ton of time in my booth this year as a show sample. I have worn it some this fall. I'll be honest, I like it wearing it when I have it closed. I kind of wish there were buttons on it, but there's not. It was not designed to have buttons or closures. So when I do wear it, I usually have a shawl pin or something in there. Otherwise, I feel like it sort of wants to just fall off my shoulders, and it's not a super flattering look on me because I have sort of rounded shoulders to begin with, and it just wants to kind of slide off. I don't feel like it doesn't give me a ton of shape, but I love the texture on it. Love the color that I used, and I mean, in all, I love the sweater. I have to wear it closed to feel comfortable in it. What else? Okay, then next up was a hat, my Allentown hat. That was one of my designs from this year. Actually, it might have been my only design that I published this year, to tell you the truth, so far. Yeah, it'll probably be the only one because those mitts aren't going to get published till next year, hopefully in January. Okay, so the Allentown hat, that was out of some of my ridgetop fingering. Then there was the Summertime Blues shorty socks, which that was actually yarn that I had already wound into two half skein balls, and they had been in my WIP's bin. I just had never cast them on, so I made use of that yarn, so that was nice. Then I knit a second Allentown hat, so I had two of those as samples. Then I had the Let's Get Crabby socks, sample socks, which Let's Get Crabby was my Maryland, my Needles Up Maryland colorway this year, which is now in the shop, by the way, because I know a lot of people were waiting for it. And then, sorry, I'm looking down because my list is down here. And I have to have it down here because I don't have my cheaters on and I can't read it if I hold it close. Splashes and Pops sample sock. And then my Whiny socks, plus a wine bottle cozy. That was out of my It's Wine O'Clock Somewhere colorway. Then we come to another sweater, and that was the Jukebox Cardi, which I have to come over here to reach. I cast this on this summer when I was down at my mom's, I'm pretty sure. Actually, we're in the car on my way there. That might have been when we were at Stitches United, actually, that trip. And I did work on it a lot while I was at my mom's. I've worked on it a little bit since I was home, but not extensively. And it's a fingering weight cardigan, so I don't know that I'll work on it a lot until the weather starts getting warmer, which I know doesn't make sense. I should work on it now so I can wear it in the spring. But here it is. The Jukebox Cardi, I don't remember who it's by. It's upside down here, actually. So here's how it looks right side up. So I still have several inches to go on the body and then to do the sleeves. But again, I'm enjoying it. I'm just not feeling the need to kill my way through it right now. And I'm doing it out of my bedazzled base, so it's got sparkle, because I like sparkle. So that will hopefully get done in the coming year. Then there was my summery Riley Rose hat. My yoga socks. the Riley Rose hat was a pattern by Jennifer Lassonde from Down Cellar Studio. The yoga socks were patterned by Sarah Pomegranate of Yarns at Yin-Hu, Sarah Bauer. Then there was my shift cowl, which I love my shift cowl. I have been wearing it a ton as the winter weather is starting this year. I wear it a lot. Really enjoy that. Even though that kind of got a little boring to knit too, I really enjoyed doing it. Then there was a hat that was sort of a design hat. I've never done anything with that design because I need to retweak it, so I just have it down here as my ridge top design hat. It was one that I was doing out of some DK weight ridge top. Then I made my husband the curly snake for our anniversary, I think. Because that's what you give your husband, I guess, for your 3rd anniversary. I knit the hat Dana. I knit the Soldatna, which is not a sweater I really ever thought I would want to knit just because it was a cropped sweater, short sleeves, DK weight. It seemed like an odd combo to me, but I love my Soldatna. I did make it a little longer than the pattern called for, like I think 1 pattern repeat. I used that in my booth for my fall shows that I could take it to. I'll probably take it again next year. I don't know, we'll see. But I love it. I love wearing it. I have the perfect top to go under it. I don't know, you might remember that was my big quandary, what to wear under it. And I ended up with the perfect shirt that I got from one of my Stitch Fix shipments that honestly, I didn't get very many things that I super loved from that, but that top ended up being perfect for going under that sweater. Oh, that's next. Oh, the Esker scarf. I finished that this fall. And then my woven dishcloth strip. Now that's woven, right? It's not knit, but it is something that I did with yarn, so I'm counting it. And it still has not, it's been washed and everything. It just needs, I need to cut it up and sew it into the dishcloths, which hopefully I'll do soon. My scrappy tube cowl / sweater. So that's another sweater project. I just showed this on the last podcast and I haven't done anything else with it yet. There's a ton of hand spun yarn in here that I'll end up using for it. But this was a Mina Phillips pattern for a big tube cowl knit out of hand spun. My gauge was way off and it actually turns out to be big enough to be a sweater body when it's not scrunched up on needles. And so I'm going to be steeking it and turning it into a sweater. I would really actually love to get this done before the end of this year and not carry it into next year, but we'll see how that works out. I'm just not sure that I'll have time to do that, but we'll see. I mean, it's not a fingering weight sweater, so it is conceivable I could do that. Okay. Oy. Pull that back over there. What else? We're still working on things that I finished here. My Fairies Dance socks. My woven houndstooth cowl, which I kept saying it was a herringbone. It was not a herringbone pattern. I'm sure many of you were out there yelling at me and correcting me. It was houndstooth. I've gotten a ton of wear out of that too. I love that thing and I want to make more of them. My addictive knit pumpkins. I knit all those pumpkins. I love them. My random bulky hat. I never took a picture of this yet to put on Ravelry anyway. So here is just some Eco Plus, Cascade Eco Plus that I had. I knit a random hat. What else? Oh, then we have some things that I started but have not finished. So one of which is my hipster shawl, which I did talk about this recently on an episode. This is a Hoagie Locatelli pattern. It's got these fun crossover open sections. I am working on this. I screwed it up. Actually, this is the right side. Not that I think it matters really. I screwed up the section after that open section, and I didn't realize it until a little too late. So then I ripped back, and I decided I'm going to continue it, but I'm just going to leave out the patterning that's supposed to be in those sections, and I'm just going to do garter stitch. So it's going to be all garter stitch and then these open sections, and that will be great. But I actually have this hibernating in my Ravelry my Ravelry projects page right now, because I'm not going to be working on it over the holidays probably. So that's a hibernating project, but I will take that into next year and work on it. Then I have my Spookle socks, which was my project that I took with me on our motorcycle trip this fall up in Canada. Oh, and I kind of forgot that I finished one of them. So this was my first one, and I just used a mini set to add in some of my own stripes in there with the sock blank, and to do the heel flap and the toe. So I have the first one done. Do I even have the second one cast on? I don't think I do. No, I don't. So that will be a project. Again, I probably won't work on that till closer to the fall next year, but it's there. And then my WIPstravaganza hand knit socks. So I kind of feel bad that I haven't worked on these more, but I haven't. This was my hand spun Classy Squid fiber that I love, their Opulence fiber blend, and I spun it as a traditional 3-ply, and I'm getting this fun stripy look, and I love it. But I had started out doing a pattern. I didn't like the pattern. It was getting too big, though. I ripped it out, and then I started over, and the fact that I'm doing it toe up is sort of what's keeping it slower for me, because I don't usually do toe up socks. And then I got to the point where I needed to figure, I was just going to do this plain, like it's a 3x1 rib, I believe, on the instep, and then once I get to the cuff, I'll do that too. But I needed to figure out my heel. I didn't really want to do an afterthought heel. I wanted to keep the yarn going. And so I decided to do Sarah Jordan's CPT congruent part. I don't know. Something about congruent triangles and parts of congruent triangles are congruent. It's a lot of letters. It's her non-Euclidean heel, except done toe up. And so whenever I was in Columbus, we were in Columbus for Vogue Knitting Live this fall, and sharing a hotel room, I said, I'm going to start this heel, so you can help me if I need help. And so she did kind of give me some pointers. So the heel is started. I just haven't gotten very far, and I probably should work on it before I totally forget what I was doing. But I also have it hibernating right now because it's not what I want to work on. But I really, really want these socks because I've never had hand knit socks or hand spun hand knit socks before. So, okay. Then I had the baby gift hat, which has been gifted. Then I had the test knit hat that I did for Sarah recently. Did I bring that out here? No, I didn't. I'll put a picture in. And then I have all my slouchy mitts. So the first pair of slouchy mitts, this is my design. These are finished, and this was what I repurposed that Merry and Bright yarn for. And then I have two other pairs of the slouchy mitts. So I have, that's not it. Hang on, I'm looking for them. Okay, so I have the one that I'm doing out of my Sunshine and Fluff base held together. So I have one of them done. The second one is not cast on yet. And then I have the ones I'm doing out of my Traveler sport weight base. So that's the first one. And the second one is cast on. I just haven't gotten any further on it yet. So those I will be working on in the foreseeable future since I need to get that pattern written up. Okay, and then there were dishcloths. I knit these 4 dishcloths for my mom just recently. Note, I still have not woven in the ends. And then this you haven't seen. I mean, I showed it to you started on the podcast, but I just finished it yesterday? Day before, I don't know. The hat that I'm making for my daughter for her Christmas gift for this year. This is the Emmy hat by Isabel Kramer. I knit it out of some Malabrigo Rios in the Aguas colorway. I love how this turned out. This is so squishy. I love this patterning. It was so much fun to knit. I might make another one sometime for me, but for right now, this is finished. And then I have 3 other things on the go that are not finished. 2 of them are socks. One of them is my 12 Days of Christmas socks that I started knitting so that I could take a picture for the listing and show the colorway. Yeah, I haven't worked on it. It'll get done. I don't know if I'll get it done this year or not. Probably not. Then we were going to a concert Friday night, and we had a lot of car time because it wasn't in town. It was about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours away. And I needed something to knit on, but everything that I had handy was at a point where I needed to be able to think about it or see it. And we were going to be in the car in the evening, and I needed something I could knit in the dark. So I grabbed my skein of the Just Desserts colorway that just got sent out. So if you're a Just Desserts Club member and you have not gotten your October shipment yet, which everybody should, I think, unless you're maybe out of the country. If you don't want to be spoiled, look away. I'm going to just flash it up here real quick. Okay, you can look again. Yeah, so I took this with me and cast it on because this is something that I can knit, you know, in the car, in the dark. I'm just doing a 3x1 rib, and I really wanted to see how it was going to stripe up because, I mean, some colorways are really easy to tell what they're going to do, but this, I just couldn't wait to see this knit up. I mean, obviously I dyed it, so I knew what it would do, but seeing it actually do it is the fun part, so. Anyway, I started that. Those will probably get done fairly quickly since they're a sport weight sock. Okay, and then the only other thing on the go right now that's viable anyway is my Advent cowl. And this really will be done before the end of the year because I'm using the Advent minis from my Sweet Sparrow Yarns Advent calendar, and I am pretty much keeping up with it. I get behind on the weekends just because my husband's here and I don't usually have a ton of knitting time in the mornings, but I did get caught up. So here it is so far, and some of the little, I'm doing color work as my transition between the colors, and obviously some of the color work sections are, that one was particularly tight for some reason. These two, I don't know. Some of them are a little looser than others, but it'll block right out, right? So yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting on this. This color combination here, these two, this purple and this yellow, this was Dewdrop, and this one, I don't remember what the name of this colorway was, but I love how they look together. I think they're so pretty. Kind of subtle because this was done on a tweed, and so there's some darker spots in it, but if it was done just on the regular yarn, oh, that would look so nice. Okay, anyway, so this is coming along. This will get done, and hopefully I'll actually do the finishing of seaming it together and everything by the end of the year as well, so that won't be coming with me into the new year. So all in all, here, I'm going to be really classy and hike my jeans up because they're falling down. All in all, my total yardage of projects that I finished this year was 21,854. Isn't that insane? That's the most yardage I've ever finished in 1 year. And that includes some of my really insane goals that when I've done Stash Dash in the past, in the summertime with the Knit Girls. Yeah, that hadn't actually been a goal for me this year. Like, I wasn't trying to get crazy yardage. Now, obviously, like, that granny stripe blanket added a lot of yardage, but even still, how much yardage was that? I estimated that to be like 5,608 yards, based on weight and the fact that it was fingering weight yarn. I usually just figure 4 yards per gram, and that's how I came to that number. So even if I subtracted out 56, that would still be like 15,000 yards that I did this year. And that's pretty good. I mean, most of my high years have been around there. So I'm super happy with what I got done. I tend to compete with myself more than anyone else. Like even like when I've done Stash Dash, that's been the thing. Like you're competing with yourself to see. I try to beat my yardage when I do things like that, and I kind of unofficially try to beat my finished project yardage every year. Some years I do, some years I don't. After having reached over 20,000 yards this year, I kind of doubt that I'm going to try to beat that next year for a number of reasons. Number one, balance. Remember, I'm really kind of working towards a better balance of things, and I did spend a ton of time knitting, which isn't a bad thing, but I would like to balance that out with doing some other projects. And I want to do more weaving next year. So that is going to be a learning curve type of thing that will probably affect my finished project yardage. Although weaving uses quite a bit of yardage, to tell you the truth. That woven cowl that I did, the fringy DK weight one, that used almost 400 yards. That strip of dishcloth stuff that I did, that was over 700 yards. That's crazy. So, yeah. I'm sorry, my neck is sort of stiff, that's why I'm doing this. It's been stiff for days. I don't know what I did to it. Maybe I'm sleeping weird. Anyway, yeah, I just have a diversity of things that I'd like to do next year and work on, so I may not push myself to knit quite as much. However, I am going to be doing the 20 and 20, like I told you, but again, that's going to be 20 knitting projects. I want to do 20 spinning projects. I'm probably not going to put in 20 weaving projects. And then 20 patterns from my queue or that I own, patterns that I own. That's my personal decision of how I want to do that. I'm going to make a separate video about 20 and 20, so I'm not going to talk too much about that right now. As far as WIP, somebody did ask me, will WIPs count as far as the things you do in 20 and 20? And my answer to that at this point is just, you decide if that is something that you want to do. You could add that into your projects that you want to finish, maybe as a pattern that you want to finish or whatever. 20 and 20s is going to be pretty loose, and I want it to be something that will work for you more than be something you have to follow a lot of hard and fast rules for. So I'm going to issue some guidelines to encourage you to think about things, but ultimately it's up to you what you do. So I haven't actually decided how I'm going to fit my my remaining WIPs into next year. I have, however, started a new spreadsheet. These are the WIPs that I anticipate going into next year with. The ones in orange are the ones that were WIPs this year. So those are like the old ones that I'd kind of like to pay attention to. But as far as anything else, oh, you know what? I just found this piece of paper where I totally summarized everything that I just told you, and I could have done it by looking at this. Whatever. As far as those 4 WIPs, though, that I'm going to be carrying into next year that were already in my WIPs this year, I do have plans for them. The Hansel hap, the hap that is supposed to be square, I've decided that I'm going to just do the half hap. This is a Gudrun Johnson pattern, and she has it written both ways. You can either do the full hap or the half hap. I wanted to do the full hap because that's traditional, but to be very honest with you, I don't need to. I don't have a reason to. I like big triangular shawls, and I think I will enjoy it just as much having it that way. So since I'm at the halfway point in that center triangle, I'm at the perfect point to be able to just do the half a hap, and so that's my plan for that. The mini granny squares, so I showed it to you, and I said I need to finish that last row with granny squares, obviously. And I had mentioned that I had originally thought, well, maybe I'll fold it in half and make a pillow cover. I've decided what I want to do instead is I want to use that center piece once I get that last row finished as the jumping off point to do granny stripes. I really miss knitting granny stripes. And so that's what I'm going to do. But I think what I might do, because originally I thought, well, I would just knit granny stripes above and below it. But I think what I'm going to do in order to get it wider since it's only like about 36 inches wide, and I want it to be a bigger, more usable blanket. Is I'm going to kind of do it in the log cabin style. So I'll do some stripes this way and then this way, you know, and you're adding on and it's growing outward on the sides. That's my plan at this point, at least until I get it wide enough. Then I may finish it off by just doing the top and the bottom. I think that'll look kind of cool. So that's my plan for that at this point. And as far as that hand spun log cabin squares blanket that I started literally years ago, like 2013, it'll get done someday. It's not a project that I feel like I need to do anytime soon. I don't want to say I don't care about it, but it's just not what is exciting to me right now. So I've got the squares somewhere, and someday I'll get back to it. It's a really good project to work on on road trips because I can just take small things of hand spun and knit those squares. So maybe that's what I'll end up doing. But yeah, whatever. And then the sweet fern mitts, which I showed you, the jury's still out on what I'm going to do with that. I don't know. I might finish them. I may just frog it and reuse the yarn for something else that I feel more passionate about. So that's it. So I'm carrying into 2020 potentially 10 projects, which is amazing. No, that's not true. 14 projects. 10 that I'd started this year, 4 that were prior. So that's about half what I started last year with, right? And some of those will get done fairly quickly, like the mitts. Those should be done fairly quickly. My Advent one I'm not even counting because that won't be carried into next year. Yeah, I feel really good where I'm at with my WIPs. So that's where it is. I hope you enjoyed that follow-up roundup of the WIPs. I feel like I've talked with my hands an awful lot today. It's what happens when I stand when I record, I guess. Thank you for following along on all of my WIPs since last year. I don't know, I'm not going to continue the WIPstravaganza thread. I mean, it'll still be in the group, but it's not going to be something we're going to continue as far as prizes and things like that. But if you have WIPs that you want to talk about in that thread, feel free to post. It'll still be there. It's just not going to be an official thing this year since I'm going to be doing 20 and 20 this coming year. And I think that'll kind of take the place of it. And you can work your WIPs into your 20 and 20 if you'd like to. So stay tuned for another video where I will talk about 20 and 20. Matter of fact, I may end up recording that today. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, thank you, and I'll see you again the next time I record a December special.